Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter live online rendezvous for 1 million by 1 million. This is Sramana Mitra coming to you live from Silicon Valley. I'm the founder and CEO of 1M by 1M, the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. As you know, we've been doing these Q&A sessions on these three platforms live every Tuesday morning. I know many of you who listen, who tune in to these sessions also are working on a particular startup project and need help or need feedback. We are very equipped to give you that feedback, but not at these sessions. Those would be at our 1M by 1M free public roundtables. Those are strategy sessions for entrepreneurs. You're very welcome to come on Thursday mornings and tune into our roundtables, and I will be very happy to work with you on your particular project. To sign up, to register for that, to book a slot, please go to our website, 1mby1m.com, and you will see a tab called Free Public Roundtables. That's where you will find the entire schedule for the upcoming roundtables, and you can go ahead and book your slot there, and my colleague Maureen Kelly will reach out to you with follow-on instructions on how to go about it. All right, so today's session, I'm going to continue to do what we have been doing for a while, which is answer questions. Now, which means also that you can ask questions in the public chat in the comment section today. Wherever you're joining from, go ahead and put in your questions. I will answer after the video session is over. And if there are questions that warrant longer answers, I will also pick up those questions and fold them into our programming for next week. Okay, so let's go to the first question, which is, why do we need to study entrepreneurship? You know, the primary reason why we recommend that you study entrepreneurship methodology is that otherwise you make a lot of avoidable mistakes. There are lots of methodology elements that, as an industry, the technology startup industry has figured out, because we've been doing technology startups for a long time now. Think about it. You know, technology startups really started happening in a serious way in the 80s. And then it got a huge boost in about 1994, which is when the commercial internet started. That is the year which is considered the birth of the commercial internet, with the IPO of Netscape, the browser company. And we went into a very high gear entrepreneurship mode. Lots of venture capitalists came into the market, and the late 90s saw a tremendous amount of funding and tremendous amount of, figuring things out in the startup industry. And the 2000 and the 2010 decades have been incredibly busy years in the technology startup industry. So we have 25 years of experience in doing technology startups. And I would say that if you do not take the opportunity to learn from what other people have done, the things that other people have figured out, you will be making mistakes that are avoidable, and that makes no sense. So one of the trickiest things to do in building a startup is figuring out how you would put one foot before the other without running out of cash. We call that runway for a company. Now, if you run out of cash, then you basically die in the vine. you don't get a chance to blossom. You don't get a chance to bring your product to market. You don't get a chance for customers to adopt your product. So it's kind of a wastage of entrepreneurial energy. So you kind of need to do things in the right order and achieve the right milestones while you still have runway so that you can get to a sustainable point. So I strongly recommend that you study entrepreneurship methodology and you study how other people have done it. So I'm going to give you a few resources, pointers to a few resources that will help you. If you go to the 1M by 1M blog, go to the site 1mby1m.com, go to blog, and on the left navigation bar, you will see entrepreneur journeys. Those are our case studies. We have over 1,000 case studies of successful entrepreneurs, all available to you for free. This includes 100 plus unicorn startup case studies, 400 plus VC funded, and 400 plus bootstrapped case studies. You will learn a lot by studying those case studies. There are also 12 books, all case study based. Those are published under the Entrepreneur Journeys series title. You'll find all of them on Amazon, and they're very reasonably priced. Finally, you could go, if you want to go further and really learn the full methodology that we teach in 1M by 1M, you could do the 1M by 1M basic program, which is our curriculum only option. And that's also accessible through our website. You can do it at your own pace. We have many hundred hours worth of curriculum. There's the core and then there's an elective. In the core, you have 7 topics: bootstrapping, financing, customer validation, customer acquisition, market sizing, team building. And you're going to need to learn all of these core modules really, really seriously, because that's what teaches you as I said, how to put one foot before the other element. Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean by putting one foot before the other in the right order. If you put the investor chasing foot forward first without getting customer validation, you're going to get rejected by investors, and that's not a smart thing to do. So I would say you should make sure that you're not wasting 3 or 4 months of your runway chasing investors without chasing customers. That's one of the very common mistakes people make. So that's just an example, but I would suggest strongly that you study the methodology, master the methodology before you run out of runway by making stupid mistakes. Okay, the next question I'm going to answer is, what kind of a business can a software engineer start? Software engineers have a tremendous advantage. You can code. Bootstrapping is a lot easier if you can build your own product by writing the code yourself. So my suggestion would be you should bootstrap with a paycheck. It works very well. Hold on to your job, assuming you have a job. And we do this methodology all the time in our community. I'll give you a 1-year plan to get you prepared to go full-time with your startup. I'm going to go back to pointing you first to a bootstrapping course that I did for LinkedIn Learning, sorry. So if you go to, it's also available on our website, but it's a course called Sramana, Mitra on bootstrapping. It's just a 1-hour course. I would like you to go through that. It will touch on all the, kind of basic elements that you need to just get exposed to as a first step. Once you do this, you should go do the 1M by 1M basic program, which I just talked about. It costs just $99 a month, and it's entirely case study based. So it will be a good idea to block out maybe 1 or 2 hours on your calendar every day when you can focus on studying the core curriculum. So you want to go through the bootstrapping module, you want to go through the positioning module, you want to go through market sizing, you want to go through customer validation, financing, customer acquisition, and team building. These are the 7 modules that I think you should study, and it will take you at least 50 hours of studying to go through a substantial portion of this to get the hang of it. If you can spend 100 hours on the core curriculum, you can go deeper, and I recommend that strongly. And go through case studies. Don't skip case studies. Case studies are what gives you the granular details of how people have done it, and you get to stand on the shoulders of other people who have done it. Depending on how much intensity you can commit to this exercise, let us say in 3 to 6 months, you have mastered the basic methodology. Now you need an idea to focus on. In the 1M by 1M curriculum, you will also find electives. Those include electives on Web 3.0 and e-commerce, cloud computing and business solutions, outsourcing and consulting, mobile and social apps, healthcare IT, online education, gaming. There's one elective called Building Unicorn Companies. There's an elective called Women in Entrepreneurship, etc. You can dig through these electives. You can go through these electives. Again, lots of case studies, lots of thought leadership interviews, lots of discussion of open problems. That's a good way to immerse yourself in a domain where a lot of entrepreneurs have done stuff, and it will stir ideas, it will catalyze ideas for you. Another great way to dig for ideas is the thought leadership interview series on the 1M by 1M blog. At the end of each interview, I ask the interviewee to point to open problems and white spaces within their domain. Again, if you go to the blog, you'll find thought leaders in artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, healthcare IT, online education, fintech. These are the top trend areas in the technology industry, and I've tried to continuously bring you thought leaders who can point to open problems. Once you've come up with a few ideas that interest you, put them through the 1M by 1M self-assessment. That's also available for free on our blog, on our website. So go to self-assessment and you'll see a set of questions. Those are the questions that investors would ask you. I suggest you ask those questions of yourself and see what answers you get. How much does your idea have legs? Can you answer these questions in a satisfactory, convincing way? If you want to discuss with me, come to a free public roundtable and we can go over your project, and I'll give you my feedback and pointers to what you need to do. As far as pricing is concerned, 1M by 1M is basic is $99 a month. That's curriculum only. If you want our full acceleration program that includes online mentoring, introductions to investors, potential customers, channel partners, PR exposure, etc., that would be $1,000 annual membership fee. So that's my pointer to how you get ready to launch a startup by holding on to your job over a year. By the end of the year, you need to start validating your startup idea. Quit your job after you've validated, especially if you can build the product yourself. You're a software engineer, you can build the product, the MVP yourself. Then you can do a lot of validation before you quit your job. One other very important methodology point that I will tell you right away: just because you're a software engineer does not mean you should write code right away. You need to validate the business case for your idea by talking to customers, by immersing yourself in customers before you write a line of code. Remember this. This is a very counterintuitive point, The instinct that all software engineers have is to first start writing a bunch of code. Don't do that. The next question is actually a related question. How do entrepreneurs come up with new startup ideas other than innate creativity? I would say entrepreneurs come up with ideas either from personal experience or from deep domain knowledge. Personal experience of, experiencing a real problem intimately is one way you can come up with an idea. Another way is through deep domain knowledge in a domain you've worked in for a long time. You cannot build a startup without an unfair advantage. Typically, your unfair advantage comes from your domain knowledge. So let us say you're an expert in cybersecurity, especially in compliance within cybersecurity. You're in a good position to gauge what are the open problems within your domain of specialization and then address that problem with an unfair advantage. This is how you come up with startup ideas to work on. So, we are in 21st century technology industry. A lot of stuff have happened. As I told you earlier in the session, just the internet is over 25 years old. And there's been an immense, intense amount of activity in the technology industry. So anything that comes to you as a potential startup idea is likely going to be in a crowded space. Whether you have AI ideas or cybersecurity ideas or online education ideas, it's going to be crowded. So you need to do very thorough homework, and you need to position your business into a gap in the market. You have to find the gap, and you have to go into a gap with a differentiated positioning. That's how you come up with an idea that has legs. So I told you a lot of things earlier in the last question on how to validate an idea and how to, prepare yourself with the right methodology, right knowledge, apply those. But I think on the idea front, I would say domain knowledge is a very good one to bank on. Next question, bootstrapping versus raising VC funding, which route to take? Well, it really depends on whether your idea is fundable. Not all businesses are fundable. See, VCs are trying to go from $0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. And most startups don't have that kind of velocity or don't have the ingredients to convince investors that they are going to be able to grow at that kind of velocity. The other thing is, if you want to grow to $100 million in under 7 years, that means you're working on $1 billion market opportunity. The market size is over $1 billion. That's very hard. That's also a very, very rare situation. So you're going to have to think through, whether your company is fundable or not before chasing investors. And I want to also point you to an alternative. You can build very, very successful companies without raising venture capital. Sridhar Vembu built a company called Zoho to a unicorn without any outside funding. So go look at that case study on our blog. It's called Happily Bootstrapping Zoho CEO Sridhar Vembu. The company is close to $1 billion in revenue today. Very interesting case study, worth looking at. Also look at another case study. Go to our blog and look at the Nasty Gal story. Nasty Gal was a wonderful company. It was bootstrapped and it was doing very, very well. And then it went and raised venture capital. And then it started going completely awry. This story that I'm pointing you to is actually titled Death by Overfunding. By raising all this money and going completely berserk, the company flamed out. It had no reason to flame out, but it flamed out. So I would say the best thing to do is follow the strategy that we follow in 1 million by 1 million, which is bootstrap first, raise money later. And the way to do that is validate, get customer traction, have a sense of your customer acquisition strategy, cost of customer acquisition, etc., before you go out to raise money. And then you will actually potentially, if you have enough TAM, you will potentially be able to raise money reasonably easily. If you cannot, bootstrap your way to validation and preferably traction, it's going to be much harder to raise money. And if you don't have enough TAM, then it's also okay to bootstrap a business all the way. You can build a smaller business, but building a smaller business, but a profitable business, sustainable business is also fine. Our definition of entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship equals customers, revenues, and profits. Financing is optional. Exit is optional. And we have some mantras in 1 million by 1 million. One of them, one of my favorites, is do not go to VCs as beggars, go as kings. And the way to do that, the way to go to VCs as kings is by bootstrapping first, getting your ducks lined up, getting your validation, getting to traction, and then raising money. That's the most effective way to raise money. And then you have options. If you have gotten to that kind of stability, you don't need to worry so much about raising money. You are sustainable, so you don't care. The next question is, can a startup be run without a physical office? The answer is a resounding yes. And these days of pandemic are showing us that it's a very important yes. WordPress, you may know WordPress, the blogging tool. It is a pretty sizable company. It's run completely as a virtual company. The company name is Automatic with a double T. Our company, 1 million by 1 million, does not have a brick and mortar office anywhere. We're a global virtual accelerator operating 100% as a global virtual company. Our colleagues are all over the world and we operate completely virtually. I'm going to point to again, as you can see, I point to a lot of case studies. We really believe in case studies. So I'm going to point you to another set of case studies, 3 case studies of virtual companies that you can read to get a feel for, how well companies are doing as virtual companies. One of them is Percona. This company has bootstrapped to $25 million. You can read the case study on our blog, Best of Bootstrapping a virtual company to $25 million. Or just do a search on Percona. Forum Assembly, that's another bootstrap company that has gone to $20 million without any physical office. Again, you can find the case study on our website. PC Pitstop, bootstrapped to $20 million as a virtual company. So all of these are very, very good reinforcing case studies to tell you that you can do a company without a physical office, and that saves you a lot of overhead, and it frees you up to hire from all over the world. A lot of people are looking to be away from very dense places right now. And this is going to be a trend. If there's one trend that I'm absolutely certain we're going to see in the next decade, is people will want to move away to less crowded places and not be exposed to the kind of disaster that New York City has gone through in this pandemic situation, or London has gone through in the pandemic situation. and people would want to be in less crowded places. So, you may have seen this announcements from Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. He's actually thinking of letting anybody of the Facebook employees who want to work from home from anywhere move. So I think it's good quality of life if you can live somewhere else and still work for a good company, and the same applies to working for startups. I think startups would have an interesting opportunity to hire from, different places and run as physical companies by offering employees a much, much better quality of life. So this is a trend that you should watch out for and try to take advantage of. So I am going to stop there for today, and I'm going to take the last question, which always comes up. I answer it in the beginning, I also answer it at the end, which is, how can I get feedback from you on my venture? So we'll skip through the next few questions. We'll put those in the next session. How can you get feedback from me on your venture? The answer is, come to one of our free public roundtables. To do that, you need to go to our blog, 1mby1m.com, and go to the free public roundtable section. There you will find the schedule for the next upcoming free public roundtables. There's one on this Thursday, and it's on every Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So you can register to pitch. You can also register to attend and have a look before you pitch. That's fine too. But those are safe working sessions. You can bring your project and I'll work with you on your project. I'll give you strategy guidance. And, those sessions have had over 150,000 participants already. We've been doing this for a long time. I think we're about to do a 490th session, something like that. So it's almost 500 sessions of these. So, it's a tried and true forum where people come for feedback. So I'll see you there. Please be safe. We are not out of the woods. The pandemic is still raging in all parts of the world except a few like New Zealand that have managed to completely control the pandemic, and there are no cases. In America, the numbers actually are still pretty significant. Every day there are a significant number of cases. And in certain countries, the pandemic is rising, and probably we're looking at peak in July or August. So India is one of them. The major metros of India, Delhi, Bombay, are in very bad shape. Chennai is in bad shape. Calcutta is in bad shape. So India is not in a good place at the moment. Brazil is in a terrible place. A lot of Latin America is in a very bad place. So if you're in one of those countries, please be very, very careful. There are good news also. New York has started improving. A lot of places that were hit very badly, like Italy, Spain, have started improving. So, humanity will control this pandemic, but we're going to have to be patient, and it's going to take a while. So the next 18 months are going to be very difficult, and we have to remain very vigilant and very careful, not take undue chances, and maintain social distancing. So the best thing is to work from home, but keep working. So good luck. I will hopefully see you at one of the roundtables or next week at the next LinkedIn live session, Facebook live session, Twitter live session, whichever medium you've chosen to dial in from. Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming today.